I'm Augie.
And I'm Jonathan.
Welcome back to the
He Said,
She Said
poker vlog.
This was a trip to San Francisco for a couple of days. And our first stop was Alamo Drafthouse.
We went there to watch a movie, but they had a lot of cool stuff set up. They had some old DVDs and movies you could buy, and also some arcade games and pinball machines you could play.
They also have really good food too.
Our next stop was at Margarita Rumble, where a bunch of different vendors were set up, and they had all different types of margaritas you could try. Then you could pick your favorite ones and vote on them.
Most of the drinks were really good, and they're all made by Don Julio. And they had really good DJ setup.
Some of the drinks were a little weird though, especially the spicy ones were not our favorites. They had some taco trucks set up as well, and all kinds of different fun people serving the drinks.
And lots of fun things given away too. In the end, we got a little too drunk.
But that's okay, we were just walking around San Francisco, not driving, so not too big of a deal. It's a good thing we got there early too, because the line was really long. Oh, and you gotta be careful, don't want to shop too while you're drunk. You might end up buying up the whole store. Then we went to a second movie at the Century Theaters. They had really nice recliners that were very comfortable.
After the poker, we went to Lucky Chances.
And Ogie had a huge stack at one point, so that was fun.
And we stayed at the Best Western that night.
They had some really nice decorations, especially all the stained glass windows they had around what was called the Elephant Bar, where most of the decorations had to deal with elephants.
Next morning, we drove down to the coast and we saw a big grounded sailboat.
There were also a bunch of surfers in that area and some nice outlooks over the ocean.
Then we stopped at the Tide Pool Preserve.
They had this nice little hut with a bunch of information, and then you could walk down to the tide pools.
And they have nice hikes too.
And a little stream that was running down. We didn't see too much for animals though, because the tide was still fairly high.
And then also took more hike to see some seals.
After that, we went to the Pacific Coast Dream Machines, which is a big festival with all kinds of cars and airplanes and helicopters and all kinds of fun stuff to do.
And they had some good food as well.
They also had a bunch of different rides you can take. You could do helicopter rides, you could ride in some of the airplanes. They even had a monster truck set up that you could ride around in, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Although the line for that was a little long, so we didn't do it. They also had some live music going on, and over on one side they had all these old engines that were running. Some were connected to machines of some sort, and some were just kind of running on their own.
And they had some motorcycle show. That was very interesting.
There was 4 different motorcyclists, and they all were going off these ramps and catching a lot of air while doing lots of really neat tricks. These were some hands we played at Lucky Chances Casino in San Francisco. It was a 1-1-2 game. I bought in for $200 and Ogie bought in for $100. For the first hand we're going to go over, I was in early position and looked down at pocket aces. So I raised to $10.
And John got 3 callers: late position, dealer, and big blind.
Okay, so off to the flop, and we have 8, 7, 5.
And big blind bets $40.
So she was a tight older Asian woman, and she's betting to me, the pre-flop raiser, and 2 other players. So I figured there's no way my aces are good here. She's either got 2 pairs, she's got a set, she's got a straight. I'm not sure exactly what, but anyway, it doesn't matter. My aces are no good. Even if I hit another ace, I don't even know if that's going to be good. So I fold.
And late position folded. And dealer call.
And the turn was
another 5. So big blind pushed all in and dealer folded.
Okay. And just for fun, she decided to show her hand, which was a flop set of 8s, so I was right. Good fold.
The next hand was the one I was in.
So an early position player raised to $10.
And I looked down, I had aces. And I only had $50 left, so I pushed all in.
And the early position player called. And he flipped over ace king suited.
I'm ahead so far.
Well, let's see what happens on the board. So we have queen, jack, 6, 3, 10. And he hits his straight.
I made good decision pre-flop, but it happens.
Yeah, sometimes they get lucky. This hand was one I was involved in. I had about $110 and I was on the button.
Early position raised to 10, and the type player in middle position 3-bet for 30.
And I looked down at aces. So I could just call, but once people 3-bet, especially a tight player, I figure he's got a pretty good hand, kings, queens, jacks, something like that, and he's probably going to call me. Don't want to give him a chance to see if he's having an overcard come, so I'm just going to shove all in.
And early position folded.
And the tight player in middle position called with queens. So let's see what happens. And I win. Good.
Job. On the next hand, we are gonna talk about I was in with $150.
So an early position player called.
And I looked down, I had aces, so I raised to 10.
And the button called, the small blind called, and the early position player called. And the flop was 3, 3, 7. All the early position players checked to Ogie.
And I bet $25.
And the late position player called. The small blind folded. And the early position player called. And the turn was a jack. So early position player checked.
And I checked.
And the button bet $40. Early position player folded.
And I had about $115 left, and I pushed all in.
And the late position player on the button thought about it for a while and then folded as well. So you won.
I won.
Good job. For this last hand, I had about $180.
Early position raised to $10, and middle position called.
I looked down at pocket aces. So I figure I'm going to 3-bet. Let's go to about $50. Seems like a pretty good amount.
And early position only had for $45 altogether, and he called all in. And middle position called.
Okay, so we're 3 ways to the flop with 2 of us left to act, which was 7, 5, deuce.
And middle position checked.
Well, I'm gonna just go ahead and shove all in here. I figure middle position, if he has overcards to the board, especially over pairs, he can call. He probably doesn't have a 2 pair. If you have a set, that's just how it is. But I can probably get it called by a lot of cards between the 7s and the aces.
And middle position called.
And the board runs out 8, king,
And early position had queens.
and middle position had 8s. So he hit his set on the turn to beat me, which was kind of seems poorly played. Pre-flop, he really wasn't getting the implied odds to call with a set draw since I raised it up to $50. And then on the flop, again, he wasn't really getting the right odds because I'd only shown aggression. So I'm much more likely to have aces, kings, queens. I guess I could potentially have ace-king, but I thought it'd been pretty tight in this game, so I thought it seemed pretty obvious I wouldn't have that. But he called and won. So still made the right plays and ended up losing. So still played well.
Yep, good play.
And he had
King and Jack.
queens.